I'm getting ready to put my steering column in. And because I've got one of these Borgeson steering boxes, integrated box where the power steering fluid from the pump goes in and out of the box itself, you don't have that power ram down below. Why, they're a little bit taller, a little bit longer, where the steering column engages is a little bit further back towards the firewall. So to make the steering column work, you've got to cut some of this splined shaft off. So then the question is, how much do I need to cut off? Well, there's a couple of ways you can go about it. Before I took the old steering box off, I made measurements from the flange to the reference point that I found over there. And then once the new box is in, well, I can make a measurement from that flange to the same reference point. But another way, and this would probably be the easiest, before you take your steering column out of the car, measure this distance right here between this mounting flange and this surface here. And then when you put the new one in, or you put it back in after the new box is in, well, you can just get that dimension the same. And then you go up front and you'll know how much to cut this off. I'm going to show you how we can do that. Unfortunately, I didn't think of that before I took this column out and rebuilt it. And by the way, I've got a video on my channel showing the complete rebuild of this column if you want to check it out. But since I have the old steering column tube off of it, because I had to replace it because the ears were broke off up here, so this is a new one. Well, I can just lay it along the side there and get it lined up on the end here. Then I can come up here and I can see where it's worn right in this area. That's right where the end of that came down. And then I've got worn areas right here. That was where, somewhere right around there where this thing mounts. So if I look between the two, that's about 1.75 inches. And it's really not that critical because I think I'm going to have some ability to move this in or out a certain amount. I've got this loosely in place. You can see it's sticking out quite a bit there. And down here, the spline shaft comes all the way to the bottom end of the coupler there, of the flange. So if that engaged that much, that would be a full engagement. It could actually probably push through there just a little bit more. And from here to here, I've got 4.75 inches. So if that was 4.75 inches over there, and now measuring between these two marks here, I've got 1.75 inches. So that says I need to have 2 inches cut off. However, I'm not sure these two marks here, or this edge here would be right at the edge here. I think they're back in just a little bit, so maybe I need to cut a little bit more than that. If I go back here and look at the shaft, I could easily cut 2 inches off of there, but I think I'm going to cut just a little bit more, maybe 2 1/4, 2 3/8, somewhere around there. And I think that will get me pretty close to where it was. Like I say, there's a little bit of leeway in or out. What you don't want to do though is cut too much of this off. You need, I would say, leave at least 1 inch of spline here. I took this flange off of the steering box over there and got a slit on here. So if I push it all the way up there, and if I were to cut it right here, that would be a full engagement of the splines with the flange. And that's about 2.5 inches, just a hair under maybe. But I don't want to cut it right there. I'd like to cut it back maybe 1/4 inch. So if I cut it at about 2.25 inches, I think that would be about right. Leave me 1/4 inch of extra there. And now, see if this will come off. Okay, very good. The reason I wanted this on here before I cut it, because if there was little burrs or something that I couldn't get off real easily, I could knock this off and kind of take them off, but this worked good. So this will go back on just like this. And I've got that much sticking through, so I've got this much adjustment and still have full engagement. So that's pretty good. So now I'll go stick it back in the car. I had wrapped some plastic on here just when I was doing that test fit to keep from scratching up my tube here. Here's what I cut off. 2 1/8 plus the thickness of the cutoff wheel, which is about 40 thousandths, I believe. So say right at 2 3/16 of the shaft got cut off. Installed, you can see that I've got the shaft all the way down to where the splines run out. And I ended up moving the steering box inward 1/8 of an inch. I had to make a 1/8 inch thick plate to space it out because my alignment wasn't right. But keep in mind, I had my body off of the frame, so it may not have gotten back on in the exact same place that it used to be, or maybe the original steering box wasn't lined up either, who knows. In here, measuring across the top, it's right at, looks like 1.5 inches, maybe 1 9/16 inches of distance right there. And if I could have, I would have shortened it a little more. I don't think this steering wheel needs to be back quite as far as it is. But anyway, that's all I could do with it. So if you're doing the same thing, why, I hope this may help you in some way.